One. Hey guys, welcome to the Outfitter Connection podcast. This week we have a really awesome guest, Mckay Sorenson from Mini Muleys. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. How about you?
I'm doing excellent. Doing excellent. For the listeners, McKay's got an awesome trophy room that he's sitting in front of, and lots of good mule deer and some bighorns and some different stuff like that. Man, it's just kind of neat to see doing this. You get to see different people's trophy rooms and how they decorate, and it's pretty cool. You've got some really special bucks up there and a really nice pronghorn, along with
Yeah, thank you.
absolutely, man. So if you don't mind, dive into a little bit of like who you are, what you do, where all this started from.
Okay. My name is Mckay Sorenson. I live in southern Utah. I've born and raised in Utah my whole life. Everything kind of started, back in high school. I feel like I grew up in, I don't know, like the mecca of big bulls. Back in the heyday, 2005, 2006, 2007. I don't know if you know, like the Spider Bull. It was killed 30 minutes from my high school house. So that being said, shed hunting was really, really popular even, back in the early 2000s, with the area I grew up in. And I, would used to find old white elk sheds and like, man, it'd be so cool to make this brown. And so it all started with wood stain and white elk sheds when I was in high school, and just started it evolved into hey, this horn I found's got a broken second. Can you fix it for me? And along with that, there's a whole new bag of worms. And then I kind of did that on the side for a long time. And I joined the military and went to college. And it didn't take me long at a college to figure out that there wasn't really anything I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And so I signed up for lineman school. I met my wife in college and knew I was going to marry her. And so I figured it was time to a career. And anyway, if anybody's looked into that, they know how dang cutthroat and how competitive that job market is right now, waiting for all the old timers to retire and things. And so it didn't really pan out. And so I just started welding again. I've always loved welding and fabricating. And I did that and was happy for a long time. And my antler work, that was always a side gig. And it really turned into, I guess I figured out, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, I figured out a really good way to restore like old chalky sheds and old chalky deadheads and stuff. And to get the trick with restoration is like getting a repeatability, right? Because every antler is different and their condition's different. And so that being said, there's some would turn out really good before, and others would be like, whoa, like when you use wood stain, anybody who's ever tried wood stain, a really old antler just sucks the stain up and they go super dark. Anyway, so, I did that for a long time, and it kept me pretty busy. It was just a hobby, kind of side money. And I started getting busy enough that I wasn't working full time, and I was doing more antler work than welding. And finally, one day I was like, man, I got enough work. I think I can make this work. And luckily, I have an amazing, super supportive wife who said you should do it. And so I did it. I took the jump and quit my job and went full time. And it was a little bit stressful, but anyway, so I was just fixing sheds for a long time. And then I was like, I was disappointed with the commercially available replica skulls that I was attaching people's horns to, not to drag anybody under the, talk crap on any companies, but there's the mountain mics that are available at every Bass Pro and Sportsman's Warehouse and stuff. And they're awesome for what they are, but I wanted something that was a step above that. And so I dove into mold making, and I thought, man, I could probably do that. And I watched a bunch of videos on YouTube and learned about, how to make a silicone mold of a deer skull. And I did that, and through trial and error and a bunch of expensive mistakes, I built a mold for a deer skull and started doing that. And there's a few other guys around the state that make antler replicas and across the country, big names out there. And it was always something I wanted to get into. But it's one of those things, it's such a niche that nobody, there's not a lot of videos about it. Nobody is willing to teach you how to do it, right?
Mhm.
There's a lot of trade secrets and how-tos and what you should and shouldn't do. And we'll just chalk it up to a lot of expensive mistakes were made, and a lot of money was wasted figuring it out. But anyway, I figured if I could mold a skull, I could mold an antler. And so I jumped into it, and I made one for myself, and I posted it on my Instagram, and it just took off from there. And so I did, the full-size replicas is where everything got started. And after that, I did that for a couple of years. And during COVID, everything was really, really slow. And I'd seen back in the day, I'd seen these little miniature ram sculptures that people would stick on the dashboard of their truck. You've seen everybody's got the elk sheds and things. And I saw the ram, and man, it'd be cool. So I sat down with some clay and I sculpted one, and I painted it. It was 3 or 4 inches wide, just big enough to stick on the dashboard of your truck. And I thought that was cool. And I posted that, and my DMs blew up, and people are like, "Hey, make me one, make me one, make me one." I'm like, okay. So I molded that little thing. And then before you know it, everyone's like, "Hey, make a mule deer. Hey, make a whitetail. Hey, make an elk." I'm like, okay. Like, I bit off way more than I can chew, but I did it because it was fun. And I mean, you could pour a mold and, pour a set and paint it and sell it for $50, and it was awesome.
Mhm.
Well, in the mix of all that, everybody started requesting, "Hey, will you sculpt my animal? Will you sculpt my animal?" I'm like, oh my gosh, that would take so long. And you wouldn't want to pay what I would charge you to hand sculpt your animal out of clay. They're like, "Oh no, you should do it." And I was like, "No, I'm too busy. I don't want to do it." Well, that I call them monster or mini monsters, the mini monster series. And I probably sold 500 of them across the country. And it was just a fun little side business. But one of my buddies, he's a very successful businessman. And he lived in the same town as me, and we went to the same church, and we went shed hunting one day. I took him shed hunting for the first time. He'd asked and asked and asked, and finally, like, "Yeah, buddy, let's go. Like, I'd love to take you out." And we went, and he found a couple elk sheds. And he called me one night. We kind of kindled our friendship, and he called me one night. He's like, "Hey, I've got an idea on how we can do these custom miniature replicas." I'm like, "Okay." And he's a whiz kid, and we ended up partnering. He's my partner with Mini Muleys. And he had this idea, and we paid a bunch of money and had some software developed and worked out a bunch of kinks over a couple of years. And we launched it, and now we're able to do, Mini Muleys, which we turn photos that you take of your animal and send them to us, and we turn those into a 3D image with our software. And then they're resin printed and then hand refined, and everything is hand painted. And so it kind of goes hand in hand with my full-size replicas. I mean, everybody, if somebody kills a big animal, they want big ones, they want small ones, they want pictures, they want to show everybody,
Yeah. And it's
So
it's a cool way to showcase, like, say a guy's got a desk job or something, he works in an office. Your product is a really cool way where he can have his shoulder mount or his half body or his pedestal, whatever, hanging up at home, but he can have a miniature version of that sitting on his desk, displayed nicely, and that's you've created like a really neat idea, and you guys have like perfected it to a point where it's now a very much in demand product.
that's right. That's right. It's kind of crazy what it's turned into. I never imagined that, it's funny, a little 10-minute conversation one night over a phone call turned into what it has. And I tell people when we meet them at shows, they're like, they see him, and they're like, well, what do you do with them? And I say, "Have you killed a big deer?" And they say, well, yeah, I killed a deer. I says, do you show, when people ask about it, do you break out your phone and show them a picture? They say, well, yeah, of course. I'm like, look at this. You can spin it around and it's 100 times cooler than a picture. And they're like, say no more. I understand.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So you guys resin print yours. What is the benefit to resin printing versus like a PLA off of like an Ender 3D printer?
we really, I've not messed with like a PLA printer. I know that the resin is able to capture a ton more detail, down in the smaller scale.
Mhm.
Um, and another difference is when you, I don't want to get into too much detail on it just to bore everybody, but we'll just leave it at the detail. We feel like resin is able to capture more detail, and that's what we're about.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of crazy to think too that each animal, right? You could have two mule deer skulls, antlers and all, and the way their growth plates come together are different.
Yep.
And that resin will actually pick that minute difference up, like you were talking about.
Yep. And it's really neat, the way we do it. Like I said, we don't have to show up to your house and use a 3D scanner. Like there's been some people that pop up, here and there that use 3D scanners and stuff, and they make an awesome product. But the best thing about us is we don't have to come to your house, and we're not stuck with a local market, or you don't have to send your horns anywhere or anything like that. If you've got a smartphone and can take 5 minutes to take the pictures we need that and send them to us, that's all you have to do. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. What kind of can you walk through a little bit of the artistic um, process in the painting? Because I know like color matching a set of horns, every horn is a different shade of brown or grayish white. What's the artistic process there for like color matching for that?
So, like I said, with our photos, our artists, we've got a handful of artists, here locally in Utah that hand paint everything, and they use the photos that you take to match your color. And so I've taught every artist we have is trained by me um, in mixing their paints and doing their best to match those colors. Obviously every animal is different, and even each person sees colors a different way. But we use oil paints to color our minis and my full size replicas. And I feel like oil paints are the best option for painting antlers, because you can put them on in really thin transparent layers, and they give, I don't know, we use a really high quality paint, and a super good eye for detail. And I feel like that's how we're able to match the originals. Obviously everybody's human and we do it to the best of our abilities, but I feel like that's how we're able to do that. And we weed through a lot of people that are interested to paint, and we hang on to the best ones, and we treat them really good.
What's harder to capture detail? Horns like on sheep, or is it fur? Which one of those takes like just that little bit extra care?
I would say that personally for me, sheep horns are trickier to paint, just because there's so many subtle colors and layers you have to put on, and there's an order you need to apply the paint um, to get the end result you're after. As far as painting fur, like on our shoulder mounts and our full bodies and stuff, honestly, I don't think it's that hard. All you have to do is get, kind of a base color and then add some depth to it. And that's I mean, that's really it. But for me, I do feel like that sheep are trickier to nail versus fur, which is why we've had a ton of requests of people with mini muleys. Hey, you should do mini bears, you should do mini cougars, you should do ducks, you should do pheasants. Well, I don't know personally. I mean, we're obviously going to expand into that. We've had enough requests, but painting a 3-inch pheasant is going to get technical and time consuming and tedious to paint and to nail all those tiny little colors and the iridescentness of birds and stuff. So right now we just do antlered and horn game. So I tell people when they ask if we'll do their cougar, as well, if you shoot a cougar that's got that has horns, we'll do it for you.
There's definitely some interesting taxidermy out there. One of the places that's close to my home, they have a coyote, or not a coyote, a coydad. Somebody basically took a coyote, added aoudad ewe horns to it, and then put chaps on it. It's one of the goofiest things I've ever seen in my life, but it's like,
no kidding.
Yeah, I've got a photo of it somewhere. Or next time I stop into that feed store, I'll send you a picture. But it's quite the comical piece.
That's funny. There's a guy here in town. He got a big old mule deer buck, like 180 incher, and he gave it an open mouth, but he put a coyote jaw set in it, so it's a deer with his mouth open. He's got coyote teeth. It's wild.
Yeah, that's one of those, like, taxidermist was bored that day, and you gave him free range to do whatever he wanted.
Yep, exactly.
I love it though. I enjoy taking stuff to my taxidermist because it's never like, hey, I need it exactly looking this way. It's like, hey man, whatever you think looks best, turn him whichever way, I'll make it work.
You bet.
And that's the beauty about your guys' product, is because you've got the skull or you've got the shoulder mount that you want to replicate, and you can turn it. You can take that mount and put it any which way you want on your desk or on your dashboard or however you want.
Right. And I was just going to say, we've even, some people get pretty particular about how they, if they've just got a year-old buck, they will get instructions. I would like a semi-sneak left turn, one ear back, one ear forward. It's like, you got it, man. We can do it.
That's awesome.
So,
a question that I feel that viewers might have is how are your replicas susceptible to heat? Obviously, you wouldn't want to put them on your dash in the middle of the West Texas desert or
right.
any, Arizona desert or New Mexico desert. But is there like a temperature fluctuation that you want to keep those out of?
In the end, it's a plastic, it's a resin is a version of plastic. Mm-hmm. A hot vehicle in the summer turns into a microwave. We have, honestly, with our replicas, we haven't had any problems with the heat.
Okay.
The biggest thing I would say to avoid with them, UV and plastic don't mix. The sun makes plastic brittle. It makes it turn yellow. That's the UV is what we have a harder time with over the heat. It's just one of those things. We protect them with a UV protectant sprays, and we do the best we know how. But in the end, you no matter what kind of plastic it is, the sun will deteriorate it over time. But as far as the heat goes, we in the beginning we make molds, and that's how we make our display stands with poured resin, like we do with our full size replicas. Mm-hmm. And they seem to be a little bit more susceptible to the heat, but it's very minimal still.
I got you. And sorry, I completely forgot my train of thought there.
Yeah, no worries, man.
I had a really good question. It just slipped. Go to the hand painting. Gosh darn it. I'm like starstruck because I've looked up to you guys for so long on this stuff.
Oh, geez, I appreciate it, man. Sorry, I got guys in the back shop that are working. They're making a little racket. Hopefully it doesn't come through.
Oh, you're good. It's all good. Oh, I remember what I was going to ask now. There we go. So you guys make the miniatures, but can you also, like, if somebody shot an animal, right? Like I have a buddy of mine that shot a markhor, and it's mm-hmm. a markhor that I put hands on, delivered to a ranch, and then years later he shot it. And him and I were talking about, like, I was telling him the other day, I was like, man, it'd be really cool to get like a replica, either half or a full size replica. Is that something you guys are capable of doing with your resins?
With the mini Muleys capability,
Mm-hmm.
um, the short answer is yes. It's not something we offer right now.
Okay.
The, the technology is there. It captures a lot of detail. But I tell everybody, that's interested in, like, especially the full size replicas, there's nothing that captures the detail like a silicone mold does.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's we can make them bigger. We've experimented, and we're gonna down the road we're gonna offer bigger scale things. Maybe a third, a quarter, or a third scale type stuff. But we're just trying to get all of our ducks in a row before we say, hey, we can do this. Have at it. You know,
Okay.
it that the way we launched Mini Muleys, we got everything ready because we knew as soon as we hit launch and posted about it, we were going to get blown up. And holy cow, when we hit launch, it was mayhem and a little bit of chaos. And so we just want to avoid that. Moving forward with any new releases and things that we do.
Absolutely. When you released Mini Muleys and like officially launched it, at what point was it like, holy smokes, like this is going way further than what we could have expected?
2 days.
2 days, really?
2 days. I mean, I get the Shopify notifications every time we get an order and stuff. And I was in Las Vegas at the NFR when it went off, enjoying the Cowboy Christmas and watching the rodeo. And my wife got so dang mad at me, and the people we were with got so dang mad at me because I was just staring at my phone, like answering emails and getting excited. And I was like, I'm sorry, guys. Like it was overwhelming, and it was really, really fun. But that obviously the newness sort of wore off, but every year when we go to the expos and meet new people, it renews that excitement and how much the reason, why I love it so much. And it's just one of those things that's so fun to talk to people and see their animals and give them something neater than a picture.
Absolutely. And it's a tangible, it's kind of a hassle to take a mount off of a wall and take it here or take it there or whatever. The
Right.
minis, they're tangible. You can just pick them up, like you said, and show them to people and like, hey, look, turning 360 degrees. Look at this characteristic. Look, he's got a kicker off this backside that you wouldn't have seen from a picture.
Right. And I would say more than half of the customers that we do the custom miniatures for end up giving the minis as gifts as to people who were with them when they killed an animal. Or one of my spiels is, you don't go hunting by, most guys go hunting with buddies or family or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and whoever takes the animal gets it and gets to enjoy it, and the other people, all they get's a dang photo. Well, now they can stick their mini muley, their miniature replica, under their kill photo, and have a little bit something more to enjoy.
Absolutely. Now, this question kind of comes from the outfitter side of me. So I've
Mm-hmm.
guided, I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 75 aoudad by this point.
Mm-hmm.
If I took, let's say I wanted a miniatures of each of those aoudad,
Yep.
but they've all got them, the pictures are obviously with the cape on. Can you guys convert those over to little European mounts from caped photos?
Absolutely. So we absolutely can do that. And I'm going to dive into something else too. I'm a hunting guide. I spend most of the fall guiding mule deer in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
And just this exactly. Every animal that you help a client kill, a little bit of you goes away with it, right? And
Right.
all you get is a photo. It's in the works right now in my house, but I've got kill photos, my favorite deer, and under them I've got mini muleys. And they're super cool tips, for your clients. You can tell them about it. And one thing that is really unique is, while your hunter is still in camp, if you know how to do it, we've got these little field kits. Let me find one right here. with the coded targets that we use. And you can keep these in your backpack or in your camp trailer, wherever you do your camp. And after after you tape the animal and you've still got it in your possession at camp, you can take the photos in camp with the skull capped animal or whatever, and we can put it on a shoulder mount or a Euro for you.
No way.
Yep.
That would
And
be
so
awesome.
our little targets right here, that this is how our software does its magic. It knows the scale and sizing of this, and that's how it's able to convert everything perfectly. And if you forget, it's got a QR code here on the back that you can open with your phone and go to our how-to video.
Oh, that's sweet. That is
So
game changing.
it is. I'll get with me after this, and I'll get you a pack of these, and then
Yeah.
it's it's just nice because it's fresh on your mind. You got access to the animal. You can do the photos properly because some of your hunters are old and don't all they know how to do is take one picture, and send a text message on their phone. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's a little nice to be in the control of the outcome, because the better the photos that you send are, and the better the lighting is, and the better you follow the instructions, the better the end result is.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's with those targets, do you just set that one target kind of up by the horn and do it that way, or do you set each of the horn tips, or how does the
So
targeting system work?
our kits come with 4, but like if you were to order one today, it comes with 8, I believe, 8 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
You just put them around the animal, like when you take the photos, you want to prop it up so that you can get 360 degrees around the animal with your pictures. And you don't want to put them on the antlers or the horns. You just want to put them around, so that as you're moving, they're in the background, and the software will see them, and that's how it references everything from photo to photo to photo. Uh, so
That's
yeah,
that's pretty cutting edge technology.
it's it's wild, man. We tell people, they're like, "How does this work?" There's no way, and then we explain, like, "That's all." Like, yep, it's pretty neat.
And that's a lot easier to do because everybody's got their cell phone in the field 90% of the
Ex-
time, unless you drop it or lose it or whatever. But that's a lot
exactly.
easier than carrying around a 3D scanner.
Yep.
I
Yep.
really
It
like that.
is. And the most important part, when you take the pictures, you set up the animal, and it stays in one place, and you move around it when you take your pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as it doesn't move, everything's golden.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm definitely gonna have to get a pack of those. What Here's kind of a different kind of question that we touched on, but what is a major benefit, both cost wise, space wise? Like if somebody's got a massive trophy room and it's just mounts everywhere, what
Mm-hmm.
what's another benefit to mini muleys aside from like the obvious? You can put them anywhere you want to. They're small enough, but to me, it seems like the cost is one of the bigger benefits to your guys' stuff.
Yeah, and the cost definitely is, anymore around here, a shoulder mounted mule deer's $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
We're $160 for a miniature shoulder mount. I mean, obviously it's smaller, but it's still just, it's just as awesome. And I tell a lot of our taxidermists too, that, mini muleys are a good way to buy your clients time, to keep them content and have something. Because we average 4 to 6 weeks on our custom orders,
Okay.
and most of the taxidermists are 6 to 18 months, waiting on tanneries and their current workload and things. And if their clients are able to have their animal back to look at, why the taxidermist has their horns, it tends to make them a little bit more patient.
Oh yeah, because it gives them it. They can just have a little for, like you said, in that short amount of time, you'll have a mini that you can take with you and show
Yep.
everybody. I like
Yep.
that a lot.
Exactly. That's the toughest part about me, is when I harvest an animal, is, oh, I want to get it to the taxidermist so I can get it back, but as soon as you kill it, you want to look at it. It's fresh on your mind, and you want something I like to hold like when I find big sheds, I like to hold them on the couch at night, the night I find them.
Yeah, I've grown a love for shed hunting, and I do a lot of shed hunting on high fence ranches. Just
Hmm.
you never know what you're going to pick up. You could pick up a giant fallow shed or an axis shed, or the obvious, the giant whitetail sheds that they have down here, and it is fun. And it would be neat because I do have some ranches where um, it's an absolute like you cannot keep these,
Right.
and so that would be another really cool deal to like go out and go shed hunt and be like, hey, no worries. I'm not going to ask you for the fifth year in a row if I can keep these or not. I'm just going to take a couple of pictures of it, and then it's yours.
Exactly. Exactly. And that, the full size replicas goes well with that, but some guys are pretty finicky. Like, they don't want other copies of their antlers around, because the more copies you make of something, the less special it is.
Right.
And everybody's heard the horror stories back in the day when full size replicas kind of got started, and someone would be at a Bass Pro in a different state and be like, "Holy crap, there's my buck! Like, how did that get there? I didn't give permission." And so we, you always want to avoid that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't. It's just there's so many benefits to the mini muleys that it's kind of come to fruition that I hadn't even thought of.
That's awesome. What? So you guys do the custom replicas, and then do you guys have like a bank of, if you got an elk hunter in your life, for the listeners, if they have like an elk hunter or a mule deer or a whitetail hunter, a pronghorn hunter, or sheep hunter, that they want to get something that's just one of those little trinkets to hang with one of your little mounts that you guys sell. Do you guys sell just generic ones?
We do. We've got, just for a lack of a better word, like general shop items. We've got non-typical mule deer, typical mule deer, whitetails, moose, elk, uh, California bighorn rams, Rocky Mountain bighorn rams, um, pronghorn antelope, and so there's something for everyone. If you haven't killed an animal but you want something to look at, you know we've got everything like that. There on our website, and that stuff is, some of it's made to order, like the custom shoulder or the shoulder mounts are made to order, so they're like 2-3 weeks out. That we've got to make them and paint them. But as far as like a generic deer horn to hang from your mirror or an elk shed, we've got that stuff, and it usually ships in a day or two after they make an order.
I got you. Which of the different species that you guys replicate, which of those is kind of like a favorite of yours?
I'm a mule deer guy through and through. I mean, they're my passion, and they're. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I'm seriously starting to fall in love with whitetails. I've been going to Canada the last 5 years, hunting whitetails every November, and I've got a serious spot in my heart for them. But I'll always be a mule deer nut. I do, as far as like stuff that I don't get personally, to hunt. I really enjoy like the the red stags we have come through, or Marco Polo sheep, or caribou. Anything unique is always fun, just because it's not the same old stuff. I love the African spiral horn animals. It's just neat seeing stuff that you don't get to see every day.
Absolutely. Those African animals, they're so beautiful. There's just something about them. I mean, it's one of those things that I'm looking forward to going and doing, and to have minis while I'm waiting for the stuff to come back is a
Yep.
great, another added benefit to what you guys do.
Oh yeah, man. Like, there's a guy that I've been talking with forever. And he killed a gobi argali and a Marco Polo a few years ago, and he still doesn't have the horns back. And it like 2-3 years ago.
Wow.
And he's like, I wish I would have known, so I had something to look at while I'm waiting on all this stuff to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you're going to Africa, Africa takes a long time to get your crate of horns back. Anything like that, you can take the photos while you're there and have the animal in your possession for a minute, take them while you're there and just have them. And then when you get back to the States or back home, send in the pictures and we do the rest.
That's awesome. You guys make it, I've played around on your website a little bit, but you guys make it so easy to navigate your website. Like you jump on some websites and it's like, I don't even know what to do with this thing. Like there's stuff everywhere, and it's your guys' website's very simple, very to the point. Click here for this, click here for that, do this, do this, do this.
It's awesome. And after you make a purchase, you get emailed all the instructions on and a digital download with the targets that you need. And if you back touching on that point of being like in Africa or something, the targets aren't 100% necessary, but they make they help our software run faster. Mm-hmm. So it's, if you don't have them, it's not the end of the world, but on all fronts, it expedites the process is what I'm trying to say, I guess.
That's awesome. So is there a specific animal you guys haven't, and this might be a hard one to answer, but is there a specific animal that you guys maybe haven't done yet that you're hoping one day comes through the doors?
Oh, honestly, with mini muleys, we have done just about everything. Like some of the African stuff that comes, the exotics that come through. I'm like, I don't know what that is. There's so many different kinds of wildebeest and the impalas, and there's just so many. But the full size replicas, there's a boatload of stuff I'd love to do. We've done a bunch of moose, and we've never done a big caribou through the full size shop. I'd love to do, any of the big crazy sheep, the Gobi Argalis, Marco Polos, all that stuff.
Yeah. The Marco Polos, the Argalis, there's a prestige. In my opinion, because I view them as like one of the most prestigious sheep on the planet.
Oh yeah.
And it's, I've never held a set of Argali horns in my hands. There's a slim to no chance that I'll ever make it over there to do it. But it's just one of those, like, they're just massively beautiful animals.
Oh yeah. And it blows my mind. Like I've held two Marco Polos and one Argali. It's like personally held, and I get a lot of sheep come through. Full size, we probably replicate 40 sheep a year. And it blows my mind, like just a run of, a solid 170-inch bighorn sheep, how heavy they are and how awesome they are. And then you add, a big sheep's got 36-inch long horns. You go to a Marco Polo that has 60-inch long horns. It's like, oh my gosh, how do they walk around with that? It blows my mind.
It's a lot of headgear. What's next for you guys? Because it seems like, you've done the minis, you do quite a bit of artistry in all of it. How do you see mini muleys growing in the coming years?
We've got some stuff in the works I'm not going to talk about yet, but everybody knows someone who has had a fire. I'm just going to kind of hint at it. Everybody knows someone who's got a fire or an animal stole from them or something was lost in transit, and all they have is one or two photos. Currently, we can't do anything with those, but we're working on something to be able to work with one or two photos in a score sheet.
Oh, that's going to be a game changer.
I think so. And so that's, without saying too much, that's kind of what we're working towards. And I think it'll seriously change a lot of things.
Do you see the big upswing, like as technology is getting better? Are you seeing your sales grow and climb with it? Or is it kind of back and forth between the two?
I would say Mini Muleys it has its busy seasons and its slower seasons, just like, any business.
Mhm.
You know, summertime when everybody's vacationing and doing family stuff and scouting and things, that it does get a little bit slower for us. But overall, I mean, year after year, we're, you know, improving in sales. This past Hunt Expo we did in Salt Lake last month is the best show we've ever had, and it's the third or fourth time we've been there. And so I don't know. One thing I've noticed with the technology growing and being more available to people, you know, the 3D printing technology and the scanners and what your cell phones can do with like LiDAR apps and things. There's a lot more people jumping on and trying to do it themselves,
Mhm.
which, in my opinion, more power to them. I feel like imitation is the greatest form of flattery.
Mhm.
Um, and there is so many hunters and so many animals that get taken every year. Like there's enough to go around for everybody. I tell people, you know, as long as I can pay my bills, I'm I'm just going to be happy for what's there.
Absolutely. Competition kind of makes us better, right?
It
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 it shows
absolutely
us
does.
where we can improve and what we can do differently just to stay ahead of the curve. And then
Exactly.
something with your guys is, you know, with mini muleys, it's staying ahead of the curve and then going that extra little push there to get you guys. There's a reason you guys have the following you guys have, and it's because the
Right.
quality, the care to detail, um, eh, the company, your personalities, like there's a reason your team works as well as it does.
Well, I appreciate that. It it's like we talked about before. It's just crazy what it's crazy to me what it's turned into. And I mean, we've got 9 employees at Mini Muleys, and you know, painters and everyone in between, our shipping manager and the guy who makes the prints. And it's yeah, it's just neat. It's neat to create something out of nothing, I guess.
To take an idea and see it all the way through till fruition.
Yep.
You
So
say you guys have gone to several shows and stuff like that. Is there a show that stands out that, you know, you just talked about the Salt Lake show, but is there another show that stands out that maybe like a favorite of your guys's?
Salt Lake's for sure our favorite. Just I mean, just because it's close and it's not a huge pain in the butt to get to. You know, it's 5 hours across the state, and we can get there, and we're home and get to see a lot of a lot of our buddies and things. We we're hoping to get into. We've never been to a show back east, and kind of the huge giant whitetail market is a little bit untapped for us.
Mhm.
Just I mean, you know, just because everybody's back there, and I feel like we would really love to get into like the Dallas SCI show, or the oh my gosh, just the big show in Harrisburg, the great
The Great
the one.
American Hunting Expo.
Yes, we'd love to get into that one. We just honestly, I don't. We haven't really looked into it. After our show this year, we talked about that one of our goals for next year is to get into one or two big shows back east, just to, I mean, just to expand the market and get it into more people's minds about how easy it is and how cool it is.
Absolutely. Um, yeah, if you guys go to the Dallas Safari show, I'll swing by the booth and come see you guys. That show's been on my list of things to go see and do for a long time. If
The big shows are just so much demand to get into them. It's a little bit, and it's tough to get into some of these big shows unless you have a connection. And luckily, like we've got a good friend, and gal, I almost want to call him a partner, but he's not. Just he's taking that good of care of us. It feels like he is with Cheston Davis, a phone scope. I
Mhm.
mean, we hit launch with Mini Muleys in December of 2021, and he was on the horn in a week, and he's like, "Hey guys, I got a booth for you if you want it at the Salt Lake Hunt Expo," and it's the biggest hunting expo in the West out here.
Absolutely.
And we're like, "Holy cow, man, absolutely!" And we didn't know what to expect or anything, and it just skyrocketed from there.
Yeah. And I just kind of thought of another avenue. I don't know whether to discuss this on camera or not. We'll talk about it here, and if we decide not to, I'll just edit this part out. But
Sure.
there's a lot of whitetail, fallow, and axis breeders in Texas,
Uh-huh.
right? Well, inevitably at some point in time that animal's going to die. Whether, hey,
Right.
we decided to change directions. I think it would be a good idea for ranches out there that, if they're listening to this, to get a hold of you guys to get replicas made of your trophy bucks. Like they're
Yep.
already taking the sheds whenever they drop sheds and mounting them to different capes, but you can showcase each year because a lot of these ranches they will dart or tranquilize their breeders to move them from
Yep.
one pen to another. Spend that extra 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes, take the pictures of the buck and get his progression from year 1, year 2, year 3, 4, 5. Somebody shot him in year 7 whenever we decided to
Exactly.
flip him over.
That'd be super cool to have, like, a little plaque on the wall with 1-year old, 2-year old, 3-year old, 4-year old. That's awesome. That'd be cool.
I've got, I've probably got 3 or 4 ranches in my head right now that's something that they could definitely utilize because they are very proud of, their fallow breeders, their whitetail breeders. And it's a great way when somebody asks or whenever they go to these auctions, like, hey, show me that deer 5 years ago. Well, instead of having to pull in mounts and say, here he is at 4, here he is at 3, here he is at 5, you can just go, right here's this nice little put together plaque. I don't, there's a restaurant and they've got like a shot glass little plaque and you just pull each shot glass off there. It'd be cool to have something just like that, but have the different replicas of that buck's progression.
You bet. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I can send you their contact information or send them yours. Either way,
You bet.
I think it's got a good opportunity to benefit both sides of the table there.
Yeah, it just goes back to the whole thing of pictures only show so much. I mean, obviously they have the sheds, but if they're mounted and on the wall, you can't pick them up and spin them around and look at them.
Right. So you do the mini muleys thing. You're also an outfitter up there. What's another hobby that you do that you enjoy that is either related or unrelated?
I I mean, I love spending time with my family. I've got 3 kids. My oldest turns 9 in a couple weeks, and my baby's 18 months old. I love spending time with my family, but I really love just within the last year, I've kind of really started to dabble in like painting on canvas.
Okay.
It's just call me an artsy fartsy nerd. I love it. I paint so much, the full size stuff and the mini muleys with grays and browns and yellows and blacks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love painting landscapes and things and using different colors. There's just something about it. Kind of the artistic side is kind of my biggest contribution to mini muleys. I would say between that and my network of, in the hunting community, I feel like I've established a pretty good reputation in the hunting community. And, but the artistic side is definitely my favorite part of it.
Awesome, man. Do you have any upcoming hunts or anything that you're looking forward to for this coming year?
I had a trip to Saskatchewan, kind of tentatively planned, and it fell through. But I am going to Mexico to shoot a Coues deer next January,
Awesome.
for myself. Other than that, I really don't have. Utah is pretty difficult to get the primo tags in,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm busy all fall, and I really don't have the time it takes to devote to killing a good mature deer on our general units. So I don't get to do a lot of hunting for myself.
Yeah.
But
That
you asked,
that made.
you
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say I got another hobby. Trapping is I would all 9 times out of 10 I'd rather catch a coyote in a trap than shoot the majority of deer. There's just something about it. Catching coyotes and catching bobcats is just, it's my favorite.
Yeah. Predator hunting and trapping. It plays a very pivotal role in not only managing their populations but also managing the populations of the animals we enjoy chasing.
Right.
You know, wolves, coyotes, bobcats, mountain lions, all the way down to your raccoons, possums. Everything has to be managed, especially predators, because at some point in time, if we don't manage our predator population, we're not going to have anything to chase.
Right. Right. And I just love, trapping, coyote hunting in Utah has just gotten so stinking popular, just like everything,
Mhm.
But trapping is just, I love it because it's laid back. I can take my kids, they get a big a kick out of it as I do. It's just something I can turn my phone off and go check my traps for a couple hours and take my kids and drink a cup of coffee and eat a donut and just have a break. There's
Yeah,
no stress. You don't got to worry about, oh, so and so's hunting the same deer or la di da. Well, there's hundreds of coyotes, and let's hope one of them is dumb enough to step in my trap.
yeah. It is the quintessential game of cat and mouse.
Yep.
You're just hoping he makes the one wrong step and lands right in the set of them jaws.
Yes, sir.
You know, and that we were talking about not being able to get out and hunt as much as maybe we'd like to, and that might be something listeners don't understand is when you're in the outdoor industry, whenever you work on it and you're not a TV personality, you don't get a whole lot of time to go hunt for yourself.
Yep.
You know, you're taking other clients out, or like you're painting and taking clients out, working on your minis, and it's we still enjoy it to the same effect, but we're just missing that one little minor detail of pulling the trigger on.
Yep. Yep. A lot of these you do everything but pull the trigger on some of these hunts
Mm-hmm.
yourself. Not saying that's the case in all cases, but I feel like I get almost all of the fun.
Yes.
And there's just there's just something that a little more challenging, because I'm confident in my abilities and I know what I can do and can't do, but it's fun to get somebody who is, maybe not in as good a shape as me, or gets buck fever way worse than I do.
Mm-hmm.
When you're able to help somebody seal the deal, it's so rewarding.
Absolutely. And like you were saying, you get just almost as much enjoyment out of putting somebody else on an animal. I feel the same way. I gosh dang, I get so amped up whenever somebody pulls the trigger and I watch that animal drop through the spotting scope. It's like, yes, we
Yep.
did it. Yes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I jokingly tell people, if I could do this and figure out a way to make a living and not get paid, I'd just take kids out and hunt.
100%. Man, like, my wife's killed a couple animals over the years, and I have gotten so much more excited helping her and watch her. And then it takes it to a whole new level with my kids. Like, just going out and shooting rabbits with my 6-year-old is, oh my gosh, it's so much fun, man. Like, as soon as he can hunt big game, like, I don't think I'll kill anything. I'm just going to mentor every tag to him and let my kids have at it.
Yep. I feel the same way about with my son. He just turned 8 and he really wants a black buck. And I think I'm going to try to make that happen before the end of the year.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
he's just, every time I come back from the field, he's just like, Dad, would you guys go get this week? It's like, oh yeah, dude, let me show you photos,
Yep.
and he can name off just about every type of animal we have in Texas. And it's cool to watch that young generation grab an interest in a world of distractions, right? Video
Yep,
games, TV,
exactly.
whenever they grab an interest into it, it's like, all right, let's focus on making this happen.
Oh, and I mean, I feel like if you want your kids to be involved in this day and age, you have to pursue any opportunity you can to get them involved, because I mean, just in one generation, myself growing up, I got a deer tag every year. If you didn't draw a gun tag, you could go buy an archery tag and go have fun with your bow and arrow. But anymore, I watch these kids growing up, and like one of my employees, Connor, he didn't draw a deer tag until he turned 18, after he graduated. And I'm like, man, if you got to get these kids involved, or else it's going to die. Like, they're the next generation. And I feel like anything you can do to get your kids involved is beneficial.
Absolutely. And it's no trade secret or anything people may not know about, but license sales is on the decline.
Yep.
You know, it's we're we're a few decisions away from losing the one thing that kind of brings the whole hunting community together, whether they agree on archery hunting or rifle hunting or muzzle loader or trapping or hound hunting or whatever. We're just a few decisions away from losing it all.
Yep.
And
Because it's not like when those big decisions get made, it's not like they ever get reversed.
no, it's almost impossible to get them reversed if they ever do.
Well, you look at all the stuff in Colorado, re-releasing the wolves, and I don't really want to get into that because that's a whole nother can of worms. But it's just crazy what it's just crazy what people get an agenda and how hard they'll push to get their way.
Absolutely. Well, Mckay, we're coming up on about an hour. Is there anything you'd like to tell our listeners, or as well as given your where people can get a hold of you guys, and how if they wanted to get a replica made of something that they've got hanging on their wall or something that they shot this season, how can people get a hold of you guys and get all that set up and lined up?
Yeah, I would say the easiest way to get a hold of us is through Instagram. We're on Instagram at Mini Muleys, no space. We're very responsive to DMs and happy to help anybody who sends us a message. If you're in search of full size replicas, you can hit me on Instagram. You can find me on my website. But my full size replicas is Trapper Man Antlers on Instagram. Chances are you've probably seen a post of a big deer with my handle on it. We get lots of big animals that come through our shop. And I guess in closing, I would just love to say thank you for the opportunity to talk about, my world. And it's always nice to speak with like-minded people about things we enjoy.
Absolutely, man. Again, I greatly appreciate you coming on. It's been a blast. Like I said earlier, you guys are somebody that I've looked up to for a while. Haven't gotten around to ordering any minis yet, but it's coming.
Well, let's chat after this and we'll get you taken care of, brother.
All right, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, man. Thank you. We'll have a great night.
You too. Let's see. I'm going to end the recording.